All right, we're getting ready to cut it off. Well, now, welcome. You're tuning to Men's Who Stands, and where we talk about manhood with truth, humor, and a whole lot of accountability. And men, we need to have you accountable. I'm your brother Clayton, and we're going to get down into a very serious subject.
Good morning, and I'm Sheila. Grateful to be here for this conversation. For every man and woman listening out there, this series is about rebuilding pillars of our community, and it's going to be one conversation at a time.
You know, today's episode is called "Where Are the Men?" We supposed to represent everything in the world, but it seems as though like we got men out here addressing unknown. And listen, we're not here to beat anybody up. That's not what our purpose is. We're here to call men out. We're gonna call it for what it is. So let's talk about the reality check, Sheila.
Well, you know, when you say where are the men, that sticks with me because I believe when men show up and be present, everything changes. I think men presence is so powerful these days, and I think men just need to show up, like.
Yeah, you know, Sheila, I think you and I can agree. We have men, they call themselves leaders, but when it's time for action, they know where to be found. And because men's, they carry a lot of weight on them, spiritual weight, emotional weight, protected weight. When a man is present, you feel it. There's no doubt in my mind. And when he is absent, you definitely gonna feel it also. Where are the men's at? And so when I look at a lot of brothers are around, they definitely around, but they are not present. I mean, that's make a big difference. They're in the house, but they are in a house, but they're not in a home. I hope that you understand exactly what I'm saying. They're in the neighborhood, but not in the community, which where they should be. And so again, Sheila, I think this is a very important subject. Where are they? You know, only time you see a lot of these men when they're showing up at the funeral. They show up at the funeral when they know exactly is that what they could have done, what they should have done, but it's too late. And if you could expand on that, Sheila, that.
Well, you know, these young men, they looking at this, they see the absence, they feel it. You know, they're watching. You know, these men need to be out and get out the house and be out in the communities and be mentors and counselors and leading these young men. You know, these young men, they learn manhood by observation, and when it's not there, it's not there.
That is, that is real talk. And you know what, Sheila, I mean, you couldn't bring it no more. You know, it's good that we have both sides. Or listen, exactly what you said is true. Boys don't become men by accident. I need you men to understand you don't become men by accident. They become men by watching other men. And what's wrong with that picture, Sheila?
They're not present. And you know, these young men need to see that you're present. Let's talk about what they're actually seeing today, because some of them are growing up without these male examples, and then the examples they see out there, men on the street doing the best, that's what they follow. You know, because they're coming and approaching them saying, hey man, you know, I can do this for you. But guess what? They're taking the habits to the street because the other men are not present. Right. Where's the good man at?
Well, hey, look, Sheila, I'm glad that we're talking about this. Is that monkey see, monkey do. Whenever you see these kids out here looking at what you are doing and what the adults men are doing, they want to copyright that, but nobody giving them direction. And so when you don't have men's around that can teach boys men's thing, this is where everything breaks apart at. And you know, Sheila, you're right. They see men who are stressed. that have been shut down. These men are angry and emotionally unavailable during the time when these kids need them. They see men who don't apologize. They don't communicate. These men don't even show affection. And I think that's one of the things that is absent in a lot of these men. Is a lot of things is how you grew up. But there's no cover up as how you grew up. I mean, it ain't how you start in life, it's how you finish. And then we wonder why these boys grew up confused about manhood.
The truth is, a lot of them, they were never shown these things themselves, and they can only do what they were given and shown, which wasn't too much. That's why a lot of them, I believe, fall to the streets, because those pushers and dope heads, they know how to connect to those young ones. They know the weak they can pull in and say, hey, I'm your daddy,
right.
Let me show you something. And guess what? They learn what they see, and they learn those habits, because we don't have men in the community that should be in the community out there reaching, setting a positive role model for them. Men, like you say, they are staying in their house or doing something. They're not out in the neighborhoods trying to reach these young fellows and take them by the hand and mentor them and show them the good parts of life. They are missing that. Our Black men are not showing up for our young men. That's bottom line.
Sheila, I got to agree with you, because when you look at it, these leaders shows up at the funerals and at the church when these kids are dead. Where are we when they need us the most? I mean, I understand that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But at least you can make that attempt and to say, look, you count, you are worthy to be praised. But we got to have strong leaders, not just those out there talking loud and saying nothing. That is, a lot of men aren't missing because they don't care. They're not missing because they don't care. They're missing because they are wounded. Somewhere along the line, they've been wounded. They've been steered in the wrong direction. But your wounds explains your absence, whether you want to understand that or not. Your wounds explains your absence. They don't excuse your responsibility. And I need people to distinguish between the two. That part, you got to understand, healing is definitely possible, Sheila, but it's start with honest.
It does. I mean, it starts with reflection. If you're not healed, don't use your excuse to make somebody else not be healed, or help that other person. Work on yourself, and then work on these young men. You work with men for decades, and what do you think the biggest reason that men pull back from having those leadership roles in the community? Why do you think that?
Well, my reason is because of, I look at fear, and they look at the fear of failure. And that's one of that's a deadly disease. The fear of not knowing how. And this is what we are missing out on. The fear of being judged. This is the kind of thing that, where are the men when we need them the most? And fear of being vulnerable. Men were taught to man up, boy. If you can't man up, you're a little punk. We was taught how to be angry. We was taught how to stand up when there is no reason to stand up. But when you've been embedded with some things like that, it began to program in your mind as you grew up. Men don't cry. You're a punk if you do this. We are programmed, Sheila, to think a certain way. And that silence become a generational type of thing. But God never asked for a perfect man. He asked for a willing man. And that's the difference between the two. And men who will say, here I am, Lord, send me. This is what they're going to say. Men who will say to the Lord, I will show up even if I'm still healing. And
but
so
it's a problem to me as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
When men are silent, it don't make it right.
That's true. That is absolutely
That
true.
generational silence and that generational, oh, men don't show emotions and things like that, that carries on to the younger generation, because you got to realize these young men are looking at the older men and how they respond to things. So it's a continuous cycle
Mm-hmm.
that
You're
has
right.
to break.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to break. It has to be broken somewhere. Just because you learn those behaviors, don't make it right for somebody else to learn those behaviors. We tend to do things as a normacy so long it becomes right in our mind, but we have to reflect and say, hey, I know this is not right. This has changed. What if you had a little son? Would you want the son to go through the same thing and not express their emotions to you because you've been taught to be silent? They hold all that stuff in, and that's what the
true.
problem is with our generation of young men now. They don't know how to express their emotions. And when you don't know how to express your emotions because you've been taught to be silent, you keep that stuff in, and then you blow it. You bleed on somebody who haven't even caused you the pain.
You couldn't have said it, Sheila. And I'm gonna tell you something. Sometimes it become a generational thing. You pass it on to your sons or how you was raised, and knowing that you was not raised in the proper environment, and so therefore, what you said just then, it become a generational curse.
It's a
because
cycle.
Yeah, exactly, a generational cycle.
But let's get practical, Clayton. What can men do today to start showing up? Men have to show up. You can't show up hurt. You can't show up unhealed. You can't show up silent. What can men do to show up to help these young men come up and be successful men in society instead of being angry and taking their angry out on these women?
Well, look, I got a full simple thing. Show up somewhere. And again, you got to show up at the schools, the churches, and at the nephew games and the community event. Your presence is power when them kids see you supporting what they're doing. Once they find out you're not supporting, you done lost that kid. And Sheila, I don't know if you observed this, and I'm quite sure you have. You got all these kids, depends on where you grow up. Their parents drop them off at the school and don't care how they get home. And when they come home, they don't know what time they come home. So don't you think that generational thing will continue until somebody breaks the cycle?
Well, you know what, Clayton? I think of this. I think a young man, they really want to belong. Just like if you were a coach,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how important a coach is in a young man's life.
Very important.
Very important. Why? Because they feel like they belong. They feel like they belong, and they're given instructions to, hey, let's go out here as a team. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. They feel like they belong and somebody cares about them. Mm-hmm. Coaches normally care about your report card.
I've seen it. Exactly.
You can't even play on the team. You benched if you got a D on your report card. So guess what? Some of them become father figures to a lot of these young men that don't get the attention nowhere else. So a coach, I believe, has a very powerful impact on young men.
You know what, Sheila, I got to reflect back to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. When I look at your physiological and your psychological need, all that is built around what we're talking about. You care about your food, water, clothing, and shelter. Mm-hmm. And when you look at your self-actualization, that means you're top. But look at a sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. If you feel like you not belong to anybody or nobody care about you, let's face it, you're going to feel more like a loner.
But which way will they go when they don't feel like they belong? They go the wrong way.
They go to the streets.
They go to the streets because the streets make them feel like they belong.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about Sheila, when you talk about a general reflection, what you saying again? The scripture says what? The harvest, what? The harvest is plenty,
But
but
the
the
labor
late,
is few.
our young man's are the harvest,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
the
the labor.
labor,
Mm-hmm.
the men who stand up, who lead, who love, and a few more. You know, I think when they read that scripture, but the harvest is plenty, but the labor is few. When we talk about our young men, it's a lot of them out here, but we got a few leaders that is willing to take on that responsibility. And but God can do a lot with a few willing men. You step up to the plate, you ask God to give you the strength, the will, the power, and the knowledge, ability. We can make a difference. Where are these men at? Hey, Sheila, you couldn't be a better person on the other side that be able to speak up. And you shouldn't be a woman, but as being a mother, you have observed, you have seen, you know how kids growing up. You've been all across the world, and each environment is different. And I'm quite sure that you can and really say verify. Depends on where you're at, will determine. And depends on if you grew up in a poor neighborhood where everybody fighting, shooting, and killing each other. That gonna become part of what these men think. They think it's the right thing to do.
I've seen it, Clayton,
Mhm.
where being in the military, you have people from all kinds of backgrounds. Some been to the streets.
Mhm.
Come in the military, all they're looking for is structure.
You're right. They looking for structure. You're right.
They're looking for somebody that they can go to and talk to, and they're looking for somebody to help them with that structure.
You're
I
right.
The person, when they come to the military, I can say that person gonna make it, that person not. Just by having to prepare themselves. You can see.
Okay, you're right. You're absolutely right. And Sheila, do you believe in the military, your first impression is your last impression?
Not always.
Not always, absolutely.
It depends on this. I used to grab the black young men when I see them process in, because my office was right there. Everybody that came in maintenance, I saw, and I would pull them in my office. I said, "Come here." I ask them about their background. I ask them where they're from. I look at their uniform, how they present themselves. I say, "Okay, I'm gonna need you to get a haircut.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need you to go here. Do you got a car? Do you got somebody, a friend? You staying in the dorms?" So what I do is I give them resources, and I look, all kinds of people. You're gonna meet all walks of life.
Right.
You'll have supervisors. You might have a good one. You might have a bad one. But I'm gonna tell you something. Always carry yourself in a professional way, and people look at your image. I said, so always make sure you maintain your cleanliness, your responsibility, your training, and do the things that you're supposed to do. I said, because people, you getting judged right now.
That's true. That is absolutely.
Right now, I want you to go get a haircut, because we won't need no bird nest in the military. I need you to get your uniform right. I need you to do your job to your best of your knowledge and get your training done. And I said, once you get your training done, you enroll in community college of the Air Force.
Oh, that's
so I would always pull them in and ask them where they're from. And so, you know what that did, Clayton? I would have young airmen. I couldn't even remember their names. They say, "I'm coming to see Miss Thomas. I'm coming to see Miss Thomas." And I come from lunch. They're waiting to talk to me.
That sense of belonging to you.
Yes. That's why I had a lieutenant colonel call me yesterday on the phone. He said, "Hey, Mom Dukes, I'm just checking in on you."
That means the world. That sense of belonging is important.
The sense of belonging. I'm telling you, that's why a lot of them go in the military, because they want to feel like they belong.
Exactly. And I can honestly say, when I joined the military, I felt like I was part of the group, because they make you feel welcome. When you look at the environment you came out of versus the environment you get ready to go into, that's the difference between night and day. For the military and the civilian world, You can meet all kinds of people. And just like you say, sometimes you can tell when a kid is struggling by the way that he carries himself. You're looking at his personal appearance. You're looking at, his mannerism.
I've seen them blossom. And that's like you talked about that hierarchy of need. A sense of belonging is one of those windows that people want to feel like they belong to something, an organization, a team,
right?
A sports team, or whatever it may be. Those people are looking for, like, I found my niche. I found like I belong in this society. I found that I can do better. I can make a contribution to society, so we need strong men to help these young men figure out their career path, their goals. I always ask people, I make them write it down, Clayton. I said, what are your short-term goals? 3 to 6 months. What you want to do? Okay. And in 2 years, remember that little pyramid we used to have?
Yep.
Your CDCs. In 2 years, I want you to have at least 3 semester hours of college. And so many years, I want you to be a staff sergeant, So you pyramid, and then that's how you get to self-actualization.
That's true.
You've come up the ladder and get into the Air Force Sergeant Association. That's on there too. Join some organization. Do something in the community that make you feel good about yourself. And I tell people, don't do something just to do something. Do it because you feel like it's your calling to do. It's something you want to do. Because if somebody tell you to do something, Clayton, and you don't really want to do it, you're not going to put all your heart into it.
That's true. I can understand.
Find out from these young men what drives them. It might be basketball.
Right. And once they find their drive and what their goals are, I think it's much easier. But most people don't. They don't know where to start.
But we got to help them.
I agree with that.
We have to help them.
But just like I say, but God can do a lot with a few willing men. He always has. And Sheila, I'm going to say this and during my closing argument, and this is all to all the brothers out there. Here's your challenge for this week. All the brothers out there, or ministers, or whoever you are, show up with one young man. One person can make a difference. You call that person. You check on them. You encourage them. You correct them with love. Let them know he's not walking alone. And when we put this encouragement in front of these people to feel what it all come back down to, it all comes down a sense of belonging. I want to feel like I'm part of, but if I feel like I'm left out, that's going to send me to the wrong direction. So what do you think about that?
I think we need to empower people. We need to grab, like you say, at least one young or two people and do the old neighborhood thing. Like, I grew up with, everybody's watching you and they say, oh, he's a smart young fellow. Just make sure he stay on the right path and don't get ran to the streets. We have to make sure we are taking care of our youth. Nobody else is.
And from a female perspective, who do you think is the background, or who would make a difference in changing and saving our young men?
I think if we had more Black role models as teachers.
Absolutely.
Because
I totally agree.
When you're a teacher, especially a Black male teacher, you know how to reach those young.
That's true.
You got to reach them in junior high school.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to reach them because that's a critical time. They need to be deciding, what they want to do in life. A lot of people don't know, but giving them some guidance and making sure they have a good foundation, an education, it helps, even if it's a skill,
exactly.
How can we get you a certification? How can we get you set up for college if you want to do? How can we get you set up for sports? Be active, get involved, get in an organization. But when they're hanging out there by themselves, that's
true. So that when they're out there hanging out by themselves, that's where these leaders need to step in. They
Mhm.
can sit back and see all these kids getting in trouble, but they're not my kids. Let them take care of
It,
it.
it
It
used to
because
be like that, Clayton.
yeah,
When I got in trouble,
yep,
everybody
exactly.
in the neighborhood knows. I had like 5 mothers, and
Hmm.
they would call you in their house before you got to your house.
That old time way, and just like I say, Sheila, you might not realize that, but my mother tried to assassinate me so many times until I escaped the girls. And every time she saw me, and I said, "Hey, the Long Range will rise again." And even though the girl tried to kill me, but you know what? She grew. She taught me how to be a man, how to respect women. And anytime somebody beating on you, you don't love them and you don't hate them. But you know, I can honestly say that old time way, Sheila, of raising kids, you thought it was bad, but it was the best way. You
Well,
learn discipline, respect.
yeah, sometimes they just have to look at you, Clayton.
Yeah, look,
You know,
my mother had some crazy looking eyes in that girl's head. And sometimes when we get mad, it look like her eyes change color. And we know it's time to jet. And when she look up, I'm not gonna tell you no more because I will knock I'm not gonna get into that. But
but I believe in discipline. I believe, I remember you did a segment like who's running society? Is it the kids or is it the adults? You
yeah, you're
know,
right.
who why are we giving our kids so much? I mean, why do we give them stuff to shut them up?
Yeah, you said it right.
Why aren't we being you had the child be the parent?
Right? You're
You know,
right.
you had the child. Take care of the child. Don't
Mhm.
expect the school to take care of your child.
Absolutely. That's real
You
talk.
need to be responsible for your own children. We need to
That
be better as parents and as society and expectations and stop blaming everybody else outside our house for our kids' problems.
you know what, Sheila? I'm gonna tell you
Back it
something. You talking real talk. And because and for you all out there that are listening, it's one thing that I can tell you, Miss Sheila, Sheila, however you want to say it. I've been knowing this young lady for many years, and I lost contact with her for 49 years. But the way that she succeeded in the military, and I know that nobody gave her anything. Nobody have lived a perfect life. And after talking to her, and look, the military broke a lot of barriers. They taught you about leadership, management, loyalty, integrity. And believe me, Sheila, I'm gonna have to say this. I'll say it to the public. You are a gift. I think that we need to talk about this along with things that people are unable to talk about. But you and I are blessed to be able out there to talk for those who cannot talk for themselves. And
Mhm.
so my thing is that, like I say, you get one person, call them, check on them, show some interest, make them feel like you care about them. And just like I say, because when men stands, boys rise.
Mhm.
And you just said that.
Mhm.
And Sheila, would you like to say something before we join us today at closing?
Well,
Or
I'd
you,
like to say I hope what we're talking about reaches somebody. Um,
mm-hmm. I
I
think
hope
it
it
will.
reaches out to somebody. Look at that young woman or that young man that that's lonely and need help or need some guidance and direction. We
Mm-hmm.
need to reach out to those folks. We need to be
That's
present
true.
at school. We need to be present at teacher parent conference. We need to be present when they have their meetings in the community. We have a responsibility as adults to make
Mhm.
sure that our next generation succeeds. We
Sheila,
have,
Sheila, I hate to interrupt you, but you said something just then that is so crucial. Sometime I haven't done it, but one time this year, I substitute little kids at the school. Do you know when they have PTA meeting and stuff like that? Do you know that most parents don't show up? They don't show up. I mean, I'm a witness to that,
and
especially
why are we not showing up for our kids?
right.
Why I mentored in school I was present as a parent, so they know I am concerned about these kids' education and well-being, because a lot of those kids' parents were deployed. So guess what? I filled in the void to make sure they knew somebody was there for them.
See,
we have to do it. It don't matter if it's your kid, my kid, or somebody else's kid. We have to be present.
absolutely.
We have to do better at being present.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Just like I say, when you think about the word present, when a father not present in a kid's life, that leads to destructions in many things. And so we need to have men's present. When I say men's, I ain't talking about boys just showing up in men's suit. We got to talk about real men that are willing to make a change and to make your community, your society a better place. But we must first start by leading by example. And they always told me, Sheila, there's a difference between a winner and a loser. Winner always make things happen, and the loser let it happen. And we can see that we got winners and losers in these men's world. But I'm looking for the winners, the one that want to make a change, make a difference in our society, especially in our Black community. And so, Sheila, I'm going to say this to you, girl. It's been a pleasure, a privilege for you and I to be able to use our talent and speak up for those who are unable to speak up for themselves. And also, I want you all to know that for you, and I know it's a little bit off script when we talk about where's the men's, we talk about where's the women's. And Sheila, please tell them what else that you have about you, just to give them an idea of how you are promoting Catch the Promises, and give them a little bit about that, because they need to know who you are.
Well, I just finished a fashion show, one of my first ones for Catch the Promise, and it was a great success. I brought the community together, men and women together, to support any type of cancer. You know, we support breast cancer, but it's all kinds of things that people go through, and they need support from each other. And when you can bring people together to for a certain cause, and just to have fellowship in a community, it's the best thing ever. And I believe my purpose is to help those and reach out to those who can't help themselves, like you said.
Right. And when you just said something, you said you had a lot of men there supporting. Now, that had to make you feel good to seeing how these men out here supporting these women that are going through, different, and a lot of men's going through.
Well, when we recognize the men.
Oh, great.
If your sister or your mother, your aunt, your grandmother had any type of cancer, these men, a lot of these men are the caretakers.
Yeah.
So we recognize the caretakers, because the caretakers are the backbones of those people they're taking care of. If they are the strong ones,
you're right.
The heroes.
Sheila, I'm gonna say this: that organization is touching the lives of all of us in so many ways. And what you doing there? You say you had a big fashion show for how old the oldest lady was?
My son escorted a lady, she requested my son. My son's a doctor, a scientist, and a cancer researcher. She requested my son escort. She didn't want her daughter. She wanted my son to escort her on that stage while she modeled. And,
where is the men then?
He took her oxygen off, and she said he was backstage with her the whole time. And she said, I want you to walk with me out there.
Oh, wow. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you some, Sheila, I can become very, very emotional when you talk about that. When you talk about people that's going through the difficulties, and believe me, it's just having a man there with encouragement is that, look, if it wasn't for women, we wouldn't be here. So now when I look at from the flip side of it, what you did just that you done brought the community together. We need to bring the community together more and more. And if we can bring the community together, we can change things.
Right.
And again, please, for those in that Delaware area all over, give them, how can they get in contact with your organization?
And it don't have to be Delaware. They can join us at catchthepromise.org.
Catchthepromise.org.
We have a lot of people from all over the world. We're partnering with, we have a lot of partnerships with the hospitals, and City of Hope just partnered with us. So we're expanding.
Wow.
So, and we're doing things to educate people and bring the community together.
Wow.
And if you want to be part of it, just reach out to me. You can get hold of Clayton and tell him, hey, I want to be part of that team.
Yeah, but look, I thanks for sharing that information, Sheila. Just like I say, me and Sheila, we've been knowing each other since 1979. I lost contact with her until this year, and it's been a blessing. With it?
Last year.
Yeah, last year. After these many years, she reached out and found me, and like I said, that's the best thing that happened to, because sharing old Italy, past events, and I found out how well she has succeeded after we had departed. So it's a pleasure, well as a privilege, Sheila, for you to be part of the show. And again, I want y'all to reach out to us, because we are here to help you. We've been blessed. So that what we've been blessed with, we want to give it back to you free. So reach out to us. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you and continue to help this message for all the men. We need to grow better men, good men that can make a difference in the neighborhood, regardless of your race, religion, or your sex, or national origin. A man is a man. So regardless of what color you are, step in the community and make a difference. May God bless you, and may God keep you and your family. Till next time, adios.